I've never daily driven a foldable. I felt they're unnecessary for my use case, they're fragile, they have subpar specs compared to regular phones, and they're really expensive. But I still wanted to try one. I've kind of been a fan of the Galaxy Z Flip line for a very long time, and Samsung made huge upgrades to both the Galaxy Z Fold and Flip 7 this year. So I finally caved in. I got the Galaxy Z Flip 7. This blue shadow color looks dope. And I used it for 2 weeks. Here's the thing, I love a lot of things about the Flip 7, but at the same time, I've also realized that flip phones are not for me. I'll get to why as I talk about this phone, but first, let's start with the obvious one, the design. And low-key, it's one of the most beautiful phones I've ever used. The build quality is exceptional. The hinge feels robust and satisfying to use. While it's slightly on the heavier side, it's still comfortable to hold. This might just be Samsung's most beautiful phone. But I wish Samsung made the phone a bit more thinner. It's thinner than most regular phones when unfolded, but the moment you fold it up, it's just very thick, and it makes it slightly hard to use the cover screen with a single hand. Samsung made the Z Fold 7 extremely thin, and it feels like a normal phone when folded up. I wish Samsung did something similar with the Flip 7, maybe next year. Speaking of thinness, this is also technically a compact phone. I say technically because it takes up less space in your pocket, but when unfolded, it's still a huge phone. In fact, it's as big as the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Yikes. Now, a lot of people consider flip phones like this to be the perfect replacement for compact phones, but I disagree. Compact phones, at least the ones we have in 2025, are easy to use with a single hand. The Flip 7 isn't exactly easy to use with a single hand when unfolded. When folded up, it sort of is, but like I said earlier, if Samsung made the phone a bit more thinner, it would be easier to use. But it has a narrower aspect ratio, so in a way, it's closer to a compact phone, but I still wouldn't consider these phones as compact. Wrapping things up, the speakers are good. They get very loud, but they aren't as bassy as other phones. The haptics are okay. I wouldn't say they're as good as the Galaxy S25, but it does the job. It's IP48 rated, enough to survive splashes and a little bit of dust. It has Qi 2 wireless charging and reverse wireless charging, but there's still no Qi 2 magnets inside the phone. Come on, Samsung. Finally, I can't talk about the design without talking about this beautiful edge-to-edge outer display. It is quite simply stunning, and it looks very futuristic. The bezels are almost non-existent, but I wish Samsung did the same with the inner display. Since we're talking about bezels, let's talk about these screens. They're both 120Hz and very bright screens. Both of them are pretty vibrant and have no issues displaying HDR content. They're basically as good as the Galaxy S25 series, but here's where I'm genuinely surprised. I could barely notice the crease on this phone. Usually, excessive creases are the biggest complaints I've heard about folding phones. And mind you, I've been using this phone constantly for the past 2 weeks. I've probably folded and unfolded this phone 100 times at this point. Yet I could barely notice it unless I go looking for it. I guess Samsung did a great job with the crease this year. Also, I'm not sure how this would age in the long run. But what distracts me more is the amount of dust and smudges the inner screen collects. It's just very hard to keep clean. And the camera rings collect a ton of dust at the cover screen, which is also quite annoying. Okay, enough about design or display. What makes this phone special is that it can fold. I think I've already said that a couple of times. And the ability comes with a lot of perks that normal phones lack. Also, I'm quite divided on this one. Let's start with the cover screen. I like the idea of it since it's basically a glorified smartwatch. You get to see your notifications, respond to them, you have a few widgets here and there, and you can even use a few apps. Heck, you can watch YouTube on the cover screen.
How cool is that?
You could even take it further with Good Lock, where you could launch apps that are not designed for the cover screen in mind. Oh, and I love using Gemini through the cover screen. It feels more like a personal walkie-talkie. Also, the software Samsung built for the cover screen feels way more smoother than even One UI on the inner screen. How? But the cover screen is very half-baked and limiting. It requires you to flip open the screen for just about anything. Thankfully, that Good Lock module sort of reduces that action, but I'd say Samsung needs to put in more efforts to make the cover screen useful. Because here's the thing, the cover screen on this phone is really important. It needs to let you perform actions that are possible on the inner screen without any friction. The only thing the current implementation helps you do is to cut down your screen time, because you're technically pushed to open the phone for certain tasks, and that gets really tiring at a certain point. Speaking of which, why has no manufacturer ever thought about adding a little button that automatically opens the screen? Because at its current state, this is more like a two-handed phone, which is also why it's not a perfect replacement for compact phones. If you want to, you can try opening the phone with a single hand, but you might break the screen. Another cool perk of a folding phone is flex mode. Now that's a flex, where you could bend the phone to prop it up, and some apps could take advantage of that and offer relevant controls at the bottom half, so that you could have a great viewing experience with the top half. Or you could use the bottom half like a trackpad if an app doesn't support flex mode. But I quickly realized it's pretty useless. Since the top half isn't any bigger in the first place, you just have limited screen real estate to view things. A phone with a stand like this from Morph would offer you way more utility and screen real estate than doing this. Speaking of displaying more information, I like the fact that this phone has a narrower aspect ratio. It lets you see more things at a single glance vertically. But then watching horizontal content is just so bad. It barely displays more information compared to a 6.1-inch phone. There is one thing I love doing though, and that is to end calls like this. Wow. But if there's one thing that I absolutely love about this phone, it has to be the camera experience, and a sub to this channel would also be great, I guess. Yeah, I didn't think much about this. So in its default position, your selfie camera is the main camera. So you could just whip out this phone and take high quality selfies instantly. And the difference is night and day compared to the inner selfie camera. But it's not just about better selfies. You can prop the phone up in flex mode and take hands-free photos or videos. You could use it to frame yourself while taking a photo. And if you love shooting videos, having a high quality viewfinder to frame yourself is pretty useful. Speaking of videos, you could use the phone like an old school video camcorder thanks to flex mode. It looks pretty cool. Also, the camera experience on the cover screen is pretty simple. You can just swipe to switch between modes, you can tap to take photos, the phone even indicates the lens you're using, and you can tap here to change a few settings. Honestly, great interface. But this massive perk comes with a huge con. And in this phone's default position, you don't really have rear cameras. So if you want to take a photo or video of something that's in front of you, you could either flip the phone in the opposite direction and hope the photo is good, or you could open the phone up, launch the camera, and by that time you would have probably missed the moment you want to capture. Wow. And like I said earlier, opening and closing this phone gets really tiring at a certain point. Speaking of cameras, unlike the base S25, it has a reverse ultra-wide, a similar main camera, and it lacks a telephoto lens. The photos have been generally good in daylight. It's very contrasty, there's a lot of detail, it has good dynamic range and color science too. Now I personally don't mind the absence of a telephoto, but the digital 2x crop does a decent job. The phone performs well with human subjects, and both the cameras have been very consistent in regards to colors, but they dramatically fall apart at low light. The main camera does an okay-ish job, and the ultra-wide is simply terrible. Low light is this phone's biggest weakness. The inner selfie camera on the other hand is just meh. It takes okay shots at daylight and downright terrible shots at low light. The video from the main camera is really good. Also, the microphones on this phone are some of the best I've ever heard. And the ultrawide does a decent job at good lighting. The video from the front camera is alright. I wouldn't say it's particularly amazing. It does the job. Just like the S25 series, you can shoot log videos as well. The video at low light is decent. It's not as good as the Galaxy S25 series, but well, it does the job. I can't say the same for the ultrawide, which, yeah, it's pretty bad. Let's not talk about the front camera, it's terrible at low light. Finally, performance and battery. The Flip 7 is powered by Samsung's own Exynos chip, the Exynos 2500, and it's really good. It's not a performance powerhouse like the 8 Elite, but it does really well in real-world tasks. It's more than enough for most people, but the phone randomly gets really hot when folded up. Also, fun fact, the Exynos 2500 is the reason why Samsung could keep the price the same as last year with the Flip 7, unlike the Fold 7, which went up in price. Now, no one's buying the Flip 7 to game, but I played Zenless Zone Zero for an hour and it did perform well. Also, it got very toasty. But signal and call quality have been bad in my experience. I've had this phone get no service in many spots. I've had dropped calls as well. Now, I don't have any scientific tests to prove my point, but I do know that it's pretty bad compared to other phones. And battery life, well, it's okay-ish. I averaged around 5 to 6 hours of screen on time with this phone. My usage was pretty light. The phone would usually give up by the evening, and the culprit here is the modem. Since it's struggling for a signal, it just drains a lot of battery due to that. Charging speeds are fine. It's the usual Samsung affair, which is 25 watts and it does the job. So, would I recommend this phone? Yes. If you like the Flip form factor and you know the compromises you would be making by choosing a phone like this is perfect. This is the best Flip Samsung has ever made. Even though it's a bit on the pricey side, it's mostly worth its asking price. Personally, I'm still going to stick to a regular slab phone. I don't see a reason to switch to a Flip or Fold yet, but they're definitely getting good compared to how they used to be a few years ago. YouTube thinks you like either of these videos.